All right, today we're diving into the secret life of an insect you've definitely seen around, but probably never gave a second thought to. The common blue blowfly. It's got this incredible two-sided story that mixes beauty with decay and forensic science with, well, some pretty nasty medical conditions.
You know, its scientific name, Calliphora, is actually Greek for bearer of beauty. And honestly, when you catch a glimpse of that shiny metallic blue body, you kinda get it. The name makes you think of something graceful, maybe even elegant, but that beautiful name is hiding a much, much darker side.
Because this so-called bearer of beauty is also an absolute master of decay. It's one of the very first insects to show up at a death scene, which makes it an indispensable tool, like a tiny living clock for forensic investigators. But here's the twist. It doesn't always wait for something to die. If the conditions are right, its larvae can infest living creatures, including humans, causing this horrifying and painful condition called myiasis. So how on earth can one tiny fly be both a detective's best friend and a total nightmare?
To really get this fly, we've got to look at its biological toolkit. What is it about Calliphora that makes it so perfectly suited for its, let's call it, a unique and unsettling job? Let's start with where it fits in the big picture of the animal kingdom.
Okay, first things first. This is a complex animal. We are not talking about some simple single-celled organism here. This is a metazoan, a multicellular creature with specialized organs and tissues. You know, just like us. It's an arthropod, which makes it a distant cousin to spiders and crabs. And that complexity is the key to its incredibly adaptive behavior.
Now, this is a really important distinction. The blue blowfly is what we call a facultative parasite. That means it's an opportunist. Unlike an obligate parasite that has to feed on living flesh to survive, Calliphora prefers decaying stuff. But, and this is a big but, if it finds a living animal with an open wound, you can bet it's going to seize that opportunity.
So how do scientists know they're looking at this specific fly? Well, they've got a pretty detailed checklist. For the adult fly, it's that classic look, a dull, grayish thorax paired with that bright, metallic blue abdomen. But a lot of the time, the real evidence is the larvae, the maggots. Forensic entomologists will get them under a microscope, looking for these super specific telltale signs, like the exact shape of their breathing holes on their back end. For this genus, they have a thick, unbroken border.
And it gets even more specific. Within the Calliphora genus, you can tell species apart by the tiniest details. Take two of the most widespread species. Calliphora vicina, which you'll often find in urban areas, has these bright orange cheeks, but its country cousin, Calliphora vomitoria, has black cheeks. It seems like a tiny thing, but for an investigator, knowing which species you're dealing with can literally change the entire timeline of a case.
And that brings us right to the fly's most famous job, being a forensic indicator. The secret to all of this is that the fly's entire life is basically run by the thermometer. It unfolds like a predictable, heat-powered clock.
Just like a butterfly, the blue blowfly goes through a complete metamorphosis. It all starts as a tiny egg, which then hatches into a larva, that's the maggot we all know, and its only job is to eat and grow. After that, it forms this hard little case called a pupa, where the real magic happens, and it completely reorganizes its body before finally emerging as a winged adult fly.
So this is where the concept of accumulated degree days, or ADD, comes in. Think of it like a temperature budget. Every stage of the fly's life needs a certain amount of heat energy to be completed. So, if investigators know the temperatures at a crime scene and they can see what stage the oldest maggots are in, they can actually calculate backwards and estimate the time of death with some pretty stunning accuracy.
And get this, it's incredibly predictable. Under perfect, constant, warm lab conditions, let's say 27 degrees Celsius, which is about 81 Fahrenheit, the entire life cycle of Calliphora vicina from the moment the egg is laid to the adult fly emerging takes roughly 18 days. Any change in that timeline is almost always just due to temperature.
But what happens when this life cycle doesn't happen on something that's already dead? What happens when the fly decides to use a living host? This is where the story shifts from being kind of macabre but fascinating to something genuinely horrifying. This is myiasis.
And this little guy is the culprit, the larva. In its normal role, it's a super efficient recycling machine, but inside a living host, it becomes this relentless engine of destruction, all driven by one simple biological purpose: to eat and to grow.
The words you see here are from a Dutch medical text, and they are just chillingly direct.
Even though these larvae would rather eat dead, necrotic tissue, they absolutely do not stop there. As this quote says, they are perfectly capable of causing devastation in healthy tissue. It's a really stark warning about their parasitic side.
The whole process is just brutally efficient. A female fly finds an unattended wound and lays her eggs. Once those larvae hatch, they get straight to work. They've got these sharp, curved hooks near their mouths that they use to physically tear into flesh. And at the same time, they're secreting digestive enzymes that literally liquefy the tissue around them, making it easier to slurp up. The second they move from dead tissue into living, healthy tissue, the infestation becomes excruciatingly painful for the host.
So, when something like this happens, how do doctors and vets fight back? Well, the process for diagnosing and treating it is just as direct and methodical as the infestation itself.
Step 1 is always identifying the invader. For years and years, the main tool was just a microscope, looking at all the tiny physical features of the larva. But today, we're making this huge leap from the microscope to the DNA sequencer, which gives us a level of precision that was just unimaginable before.
So you've really got two main ways to do it. There's the classic method. Get the larva under a microscope and check out its anatomy, things like the breathing spiracles and the mouth hooks. Then there's the modern, molecular approach. By sequencing a very specific gene called mitochondrial COI, labs can get a definitive ID. It's like the gold standard DNA barcode for that exact species of fly.
And what about the treatment? Yeah, there's no magic pill for this one. It is direct, it is manual, and it's pretty grim. The larvae have to be physically pulled out of the wound one by one with a pair of forceps or tweezers. You have to get every last one to stop the infestation so the tissue can finally start to heal.
So what we're left with is this creature of incredible contrasts, right? The bearer of beauty can also be a bringer of intense pain. Its entire role in our world, good or bad, really just depends on the context.
On the one hand, Calliphora is unbelievably beneficial. It's a primary decomposer, which is vital for recycling nutrients back into the ecosystem. And of course, it's an invaluable forensic tool that helps solve crimes and bring closure to families. But then there's the flip side. It's the cause of meiosis, and it can be a mechanical vector, just carrying germs from filth right onto our food. It's a perfect example of how one organism can be both a critical ally and a serious threat. And just so you know, all the information we put together for this explainer was compiled using a Gemini deep search. If you want to dive even deeper into the research, we've got a full list of all the sources available for you in the Notebook LM document that's linked below.
And all this leaves us with a pretty important question for the future. We know this fly's life is totally governed by temperature. So as our planet gets warmer, how is our relationship with this bearer of beauty going to change? Are we going to see more of its dangerous side? The answers to that are really going to depend on how we manage everything from public health to waste disposal in our changing world. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. Let us know what you think down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more explainers just like this one.